I'm Rev Gy. I'm the minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Community Church. And it is our first Sunday back after our little summer hiatus. And I will have you know, at the end of June, I didn't think that it would be possible for me to feel rejuvenated. I was just so drained. And I can report to you happily that I feel so wonderful. And I feel rejuvenated. And the impossible became possible. And it's probably all about pickleball. I played loads of it as much as I could. And I'm going to still keep playing, and it's wonderful. I also realized that since 2020, this is the first July that I didn't have surgery. So that's kind of wonderful too. And I've had my 1-year anniversary of being upright, completely upright without worry. So how about that? So it's a good day. It's a wonderful day to be together. And I welcome you as well there on the holy interwebs. I'm just delighted that you are choosing to spend this time with us. Give us your presence and send us your love as we send ours to you. It's a circle. It's the circle of life and love. I attended with Marcia, and Dawn is not here today because she's camping with her family. I attended the GA, which is General Assembly. So UU is Unitarian Universalist, and the UU General Assembly. This is a once-a-year meeting where all the UUs, Unitarian Universalists, come together, and then it's a time when we look at bylaws and we have business meetings, and it's how the sausage is made. And it was a wonderful time, and some very big work had been done this year. And as usual, when big work is done, it creates a lot of energy of all sorts. Some are calibrated higher, some are calibrated lower, and they all exist in this soup of energy together. And out of that, just like from maybe the muck of a lake, the beautiful lotus arises. Out of that, this flower came. And I want you to know this, and this is what I love about UU, Unitarian Universalists. What I love about it is that it sees itself as a living tradition. So you may think it's a religion. If you think about it as a religion, to me, that sounds like something that it's set in stone. It was formed at some time in the past, then some dogma was created at that time, and it's set in stone. That can't happen with a living tradition. Therefore, I don't think that it is entirely true to call us a religion. I think it's truer to call us a movement or a living tradition. Here we are, because it is in our bylaws that we must, every 15 years, we must look at our values and principles and then see if we still resonate with them. And if we don't, then it's time for an overhaul. If we still do, then why fix something that needs no fixing? So this was the time. In 2020, a commission was brought together to look at our values and principles, and huge work had been done. And all UUs were involved in this. And there were several major steps that had to be taken to according to the bylaws. And then this year was the final vote on it. And UUs have been known for having 7 principles, then for a little while 8 principles, and then the values. And we overhauled that. And we said, yeah, sure, that all is still true. And there is something more. There is something more that needs to arise from this collective consciousness. And we're willing to name it. We're just going to call it love. We are willing to say that the way we define ourselves is that love is at the center. And as love would have it, we believe in interdependence, in equity. As love would have it, we will keep working on transforming ourselves and transforming our environment and transforming our world. And just because you come in here, it doesn't mean that you have to believe like all of us do. You have to think like all of us do. We respect pluralism. We respect differences. And love is at the center. And then, of course, as love would have it, we're generous. And as love would have it, we would never fight. We'd never stop fighting for justice. So this is how we define ourselves. This is the new face of UU, the new flower of UU, flower of love. So we have to get used to it, learn it, and own it, because this is the new us. It's always been us. It came to the surface, and we acknowledged it. And I've been thinking a lot about this in July, and even before that, because in case you haven't noticed, and if you haven't, what rock must you live under? There's so much changing in our world. In the political environment, everything is changing. In the cultural environment, it's changing. And obviously, in our lives, in our UU world, this is a huge shift, a huge change. It's like, I imagine it, you know how lakes turn over and what's on the bottom comes to the top, and this happens occasionally. And I think it's one of those that is happening. It's happening, and we are in the midst of it. And when it is happening, well, that can be troublesome. It's a shift. It takes getting used to it. It could be a shock. If you were used to being in the lake when the water was all nice and warm and it felt just easy to go into it, and then it turned over and now the cold is on top, it's a shock to the system. It takes adjustment. You definitely notice that there is a change, that a shift has happened. So what do we do about it? And how are we to relationship with that? So this change is happening. And it's happening in the political environment as well. Huge changes. We don't know how it is going to play out, but it is obvious that it is happening. And there's all kinds of energies that are being stirred up. Some are very good, some are not so good, have calibrated all over the place, as we humans tend to be. And then I was wondering, why is this happening? Why do we keep having these cycles? We live in these cycles. And the thing is, when we are in the middle of a cycle, we forget. We forget that our whole existence is within these cycles. When we're in the middle, we forget about it. And then we inch towards the boundary of the cycle. And that's when we notice. And then we have to remind ourselves, oh, wait, this is normal. It's happened before, and all is just happening again now. That's all there is to it. Now, of course, we never know what the ultimate outcome of this cycle is going to be. Because, well, we've never been like this before. The last cycle, when it turned over, we were at a different level of consciousness. Technology was at a different level. Maybe the political system was different. So our age was different. So now we're here, and we're again up against this cycle, this shift. We're right here at the boundary. We don't know the outcome. But still, it's happening. So some of us are excited about it. Some of us are scared. And then we're all over the place in between. But it's happened. So, buckle up. This is happening. This is what, and this is what I was thinking about, that the cycles happen in all areas of life: economics, politics, culture, the way of thinking. So one of them is, and I think this is what we're cycling out of, okay, is this age of so-called realism and pragmatism. So realism is a worldview where you look at circumstances, and then based on those circumstances, you decide what is possible and what is not possible. And the bottom line is very important. Being down to earth is very important. Pragmatic and practical is very important. Sorry, I expired. Being pragmatic and practical is very important. That realism and pragmatism gives birth to West Nijab, in my opinion. Now, we are all used to driving down Westnedge Avenue, right? So we probably don't even see anymore the cacophony of buildings. That if you were really looking at it with eyes that desire aesthetics, that desire a design, an overarching principle of creation, Westnedge Avenue will let you down. It's just, it's the street of business, of buildings. They do the job. They have AC, they have heat, they have the walls, the doors, some have windows. It does the job. It's just not pretty. It really isn't. Now, idealism gives birth to a totally different city block. And if you've been to Europe, you've seen them. If you've been to old towns on the East Coast, you might have seen them. It's beautiful. And you know that it's the age of idealism because, for crying out loud, there's gargoyles on the building. Like, what pragmatic, realistic human being would waste money on a gargoyle, on the creation of a gargoyle, and then make sure that they put it on the window because, well, they're well known to fend off bad spirits and they will protect the inhabitants of that building, right? So idealism is a different way of looking at the world. Idealism cares about beauty, cares about culture, it's just calibrated high. Realism, which usually follows idealism, is calibrated lower, in my opinion. And so everything that realism brings about is good enough. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor, he was a neurologist and psychologist. He is the one who introduced logotherapy. Let's talk about our issues. Viktor Frankl, in his later years, he took up flying and he took flying lessons. And he said he learned that if he wanted to go from A to B, right, from A to B, he couldn't just get there from flying to A to B because there are currents in the air. The wind is there. So if he just calibrated from A to B, he would end up probably way south of his destination. So what he needed to do then, instead of going from A to B, had to calibrate up here, and then he'd end up exactly where he wanted to be. So he had to calibrate far north from his final destination. And he says, and I know nothing about flying and piloting, that's called crabbing, like crab walk in pilot terms. So you have to calibrate higher to get to where you want to go. And he said human beings are just like that. If you see a human being just for who they are, and if you acknowledge them just for who they are, they will underperform. But if you elevate the human being, if you are willing to see them better than how they present, that allows them the possibility to perform and bring forth everything that is within them. Idealism. Realism, therefore, creates less than. Good enough is less than. Good enough, realism, creates a political party who will nominate a candidate who has been indicted and charged. Good enough. For them, that's good enough. Idealism would say, maybe you're a good enough candidate, but you're not good enough for us. Figure out your legal stuff. If you fight it and you come out clean and squeaky clean, sure, we will nominate you. But if you don't, you can't be our nominee. Good enough creates less than. Now, I remember when this church, we came together and we also overhauled our vision and mission statement. And in our vision, we said, we are here to transform ourselves for the betterment of this world, for our own betterment and for the entire world. And I remember that too created waves in this congregation. In fact, we had people leave because they said, that's too lofty to aim for transformation. If we would have put it in our vision that we are willing to improve, they would have stayed. And we said, no, we want transformation. We're aiming north of our destination. We're aiming north of our destination because that calls on our better angels to keep elevating ourselves to indeed, even if we shoot for the moon and we just make it to the stars, that's a huge transformation. But if we just aim for the stars, we end up in orbit somewhere. So we've done the same thing here at UU. We said love is at the center. That's it. 80% voted for it. 20% said it's too soon for that. It's too lofty. We were comfortable before. We liked what we had. Why do we have to change it? 80% said it inspires us to be better. It inspires us to aim higher, farther, to engage even more. This is what we want. This is the cycle that's come through, and we are at the very beginning of it. So I think that we are turning over into a new age of lofty ideas, where a Westnedge Avenue wouldn't look like that if we were to create it in this new cycle, where beauty, where courage, where integrity matters, where we expect and behold the best in all of us, where we put love at the center. Because in the end, isn't that all that we ever wanted? To be loved and to be able to love vulnerably, truthfully, honestly, as individuals, as a people, as a planet. And don't we want this love to transform our world, to transform the political culture, our morals, the way we treat each other, the way we eat, who we eat, what we eat, why we eat them? Love is at the center. What would our lives, our choices look like if we always, always, always kept that in? And then calibrate just a little bit north of that. Just a little bit north of that. So we may indeed have the opportunity to bring forth all that is within us, our better angels, our best selves, as love would have. And so it is.